Harper Sinclair adjusted her thick-rimmed glasses and oversized cardigan as she stepped into the empty teacher's lounge at Westfield Prep. Nobody noticed how she placed her feet heel touching the ground first. Body weight distributed perfectly. 9 years in the octagon had turned these movements into instinct. But what she didn't know was that in 20 minutes, those instincts would save her life. The morning sun filtered through dusty blinds, casting long shadows across the worn carpet of the third-floor lounge. 7:15 a.m. on a Monday meant most teachers were either grabbing coffee in the main office or preparing classrooms for first period. Harper had specifically chosen this time to organize her lesson plans in peace, away from the curious stares that followed every new teacher at Colorado's most prestigious private school. She spread her materials across the oak table, color-coded folders containing carefully crafted lessons on American literature. Teaching had always been her dream, even during those brutal years when cage fighting paid the bills. Now, at 28, with her fighting career behind her, she could finally inspire young minds instead of breaking bodies. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Harper's trained ears counted 3 sets, each carrying approximately 200 pounds of entitled teenage muscle. The door handle rattled before swinging open with unnecessary force. Braxton Sterling entered first, his 6'3" frame filling the doorway like he owned it, which, considering his father's 40% stake in the school's funding, wasn't far from the truth. The Westfield Prep Letterman jacket stretched tight across shoulders built for Division I football. Yale's acceptance letter already signed and sealed thanks to both athletic prowess and strategic donations. Behind him, Tyler Morrison cracked his knuckles with practiced menace. The linebacker's father served as county prosecutor, a detail that had proven useful whenever Tyler's temper got the better of him. Jake Pemberton brought up the rear, his family's hospital empire ensuring any accidents could be quietly managed by friendly doctors who understood the importance of discretion. The smell hit Harper immediately: stale beer mixed with expensive cologne, and that particular brand of arrogance that came from never facing real consequences. Spirit Week had clearly started early for Westfield's Golden Boys. Well, well, Braxton's voice carried the lazy confidence of someone who'd never met a situation money couldn't fix. The new English teacher, working hard already. I see. Harper continued arranging her papers, peripheral vision tracking their positions while her hands remained steady. School starts in 45 minutes. Gentlemen, perhaps you should head to your home room. Tyler laughed, a harsh sound that bounced off the walls. Gentlemen, hear that? Brax, she thinks we're gentlemen. Jake moved to the windows, pulling the blinds closed with deliberate slowness. Morning light reduced to thin stripes across the floor. Coach Patterson said we had 15 minutes before he accidentally checks this hallway. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Harper's fingers found her ring, twisting it absently. Not a wedding band, her championship ring, disguised under black nail polish. The World MMA Federation logo hidden, but the weight reassuringly familiar. You're the third one, Braxton said, stepping closer. His breath carried notes of last night's party, probably held at his father's Denver mansion where security cameras mysteriously malfunctioned whenever the Sterling heir threw a gathering. Third female teacher this year, the others learned their place quickly. Harper finally looked up, meeting his bloodshot eyes through her fake prescription lenses. I'm not interested in whatever tradition you think you're upholding. Please, leave. See? That's your first mistake. Tyler positioned himself between Harper and the door, a move he'd probably practiced on countless victims. Thinking you have choices here. Mrs. Ross thought she had choices too. Now she's teaching community college in Kansas. The pieces clicked together in Harper's mind. Mackenzie Ross, the junior who'd approached her last week with warnings whispered in empty hallways. The girl's hands had shaken as she showed Harper her phone. 47 videos documenting 6 months of systematic harassment. Each teacher who tried to protect students from Braxton's crew found themselves facing mysteriously surfacing scandals or sudden family emergencies requiring immediate relocation. The Ross situation was unfortunate, Harper said, standing slowly. Her muscle memory wanted to shift into fighting stance, but she forced her body to remain seemingly vulnerable. "But I'm not Mrs. Ross." Braxton's hand slammed onto the table, scattering her carefully organized papers. "No, you're worse. Ross at least pretended to respect the natural order. But you, walking in here with your diversity hire credentials and scholarship student sympathy, you need a real education about how Westfield actually works." The security camera in the corner, Harper noticed, had been covered with black electrical tape. Not their first time orchestrating a private meeting with staff. Jake pulled out his phone, aiming it at the scene with steady hands. "For the yearbook," he explained with a smirk that would have been handsome if not for the cruelty behind it. "We like to document all the memorable moments." Harper removed her glasses with deliberate calm, folding them neatly before placing them in her cardigan pocket. The familiar pre-fight ritual, modified for a very different kind of arena. "Turn around and walk away. This is your only warning." The three boys exchanged glances before bursting into laughter. Tyler stepped forward, using his bulk to crowd Harper against the table. "Warning, did she just threaten us, Jake? Make sure you're getting this." "Every second," Jake confirmed, zooming in on Harper's face. "The school board will love seeing how the new teacher threatened 3 honor students." Braxton circled around the table, cutting off Harper's escape route to the windows. Classic pack-hunting behavior, probably learned on the football field but equally effective for intimidation. "You know what your problem is. You think that degree from some state school means something here. You think because you care about these kids, because you want to make a difference that protects you." His hand shot out, gripping Harper's shoulder with quarterback strength. "Newsflash, Miss Sinclair. The only thing that matters at Westfield is who your family is and how much they donate. And since you're nobody from nowhere, teaching poetry to kids who'll never need it, you're about to learn why crossing us is career suicide." Harper's breathing shifted almost imperceptibly. 9 years of professional fighting had taught her to read violence like other people read books. The tension in Braxton's jaw. The way Tyler's weight shifted to his back foot. Jake's trembling excitement behind the camera, all signs of escalation. Of young men drunk on power and convinced of their invincibility. She thought of her students, kids like Mackenzie, who deserved to learn without fear. Thought of the promises she'd made to herself when she hung up her gloves to use her skills to build rather than break. But sometimes, she reflected as Braxton's grip tightened, building something new required demolishing what came before. "Last chance," Harper said quietly. "Let go and leave." Braxton leaned in close, his other hand rising toward her throat. "Or what a... You'll report us, call Daddy. Oh, wait, you probably don't even have..." The shift happened between heartbeats. Harper's body moved with the fluid precision of muscle memory. Her free hand securing Braxton's wrist while her stance dropped and pivoted. What happened next would be debated in viral videos for months, but in the moment, it was simply physics meeting a decade of training. Braxton Sterling, star quarterback and tormentor of Westfield Prep, found himself airborne. The world tilted as Harper redirected his momentum, using his own aggression against him in a textbook judo throw that would have scored perfectly in any competition. He landed hard on the carpet, air exploding from his lungs in a shocked gasp. Tyler and Jake stood frozen, their teenage brains struggling to process how their 6'3" leader had just been handled like a practice dummy by a woman who barely reached his shoulder. The phone in Jake's hand captured every frame, though he seemed to have forgotten its existence. Harper straightened her cardigan and looked down at Braxton, who was still trying to remember how breathing worked. "I really wish you hadn't done that." Tyler's paralysis broke with a roar of rage. "You psycho! You can't assault students!" He charged forward with all the grace of a bull in a china shop, relying on the same brute force that had earned him a starting position on varsity. Harper sidestepped smoothly, her movements economical and precise. Tyler's momentum carried him past her and directly into the oak table, which offered no sympathy for his shin. "Technically, that's self-defense," Harper corrected, watching Tyler hop on one foot while creating new combinations of profanity. "Your friend assaulted me first. Multiple witnesses, video evidence, clear threat to my safety. Any competent lawyer would have this thrown out before it reached a judge." Jake's hands shook as he finally lowered the phone. Holy shit, Brax. Are you okay?" Braxton managed to prop himself up on his elbows, his perfect hair now resembling a bird's nest. Something flickered in his eyes, not just shock or anger, but a dawning recognition that the rules of his world had suddenly changed. "Who are you?" Harper reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone, fingers moving with practiced efficiency. "Someone who's done pretending that bullies deserve patience or understanding. You want to know who I am? Pull up YouTube and search for Silent Storm MMA highlights. That ought to clarify things." While the boys remained frozen in various states of disbelief, Harper pressed 3 numbers on her phone, the universally recognized digits that could summon authority even to Westfield's insulated bubble. "Wait." Jake stepped forward, his family's medical empire suddenly feeling very far away. "You don't need to call the cops. This was just—" "We were just—" "Just what?" Harper's voice carried the same deadly calm she'd once used to intimidate opponents during weigh-ins. "Having fun. Teaching me a lesson. Continuing a pattern of harassment that's driven away multiple teachers and terrorized countless students." The phone rang once before she spoke clearly. "This is Harper Sinclair at Westfield Preparatory Academy. I need immediate assistance in the 3rd-floor teacher's lounge. 3 male students attempted to assault me, and I was forced to defend myself. One of them may need medical attention." Braxton struggled to sit up fully, one hand pressed to his lower back where it had met the floor. "You're destroying your career. My father will bury you. We own this school." "Your father owns 40% of the school's funding," Harper corrected, her teacher instincts kicking in even during crisis. "Which is significant, but not a majority. And I'm betting Richard Sterling, CEO of Sterling Industries, would be very interested to know why his son felt comfortable assaulting a teacher, especially once the video Jake so helpfully recorded goes viral." The color drained from Jake's face as he looked at his phone, like it had transformed into a live grenade. Tyler, still nursing his bruised shin, seemed to be reconsidering every life choice that had led to this moment. "Here's what's going to happen," Harper continued, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd faced down far scarier opponents than entitled teenagers. "You're going to sit quietly until the police arrive. You're going to tell them the truth about what happened here. And then you're going to think very carefully about whether terrorizing teachers and students is worth risking your futures. You don't understand. Braxton's voice cracked, revealing the boy beneath the bully. I can't. My father expects. If I don't maintain control here, and for the first time since entering the room, Harper felt a flicker of sympathy, the pressure of legacy, of living up to impossible standards set by powerful parents. She'd seen it destroy young fighters who could have been great if they'd been allowed to find their own path. Your father expects you to be strong, she said, her tone softening slightly. But strength isn't about dominating others. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves. It's about choosing to be better than your worst impulses. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder with each second. The sound seemed to break whatever spell had held the room in suspension. Tyler slumped against the wall, his prosecutor father's lectures about evidence and testimony probably running through his head. Jake set his phone carefully on the table, as if distancing himself from the evidence might somehow change what had happened. But it was Braxton who surprised Harper. The quarterback who'd entered the room with such swagger now looked smaller, younger, more fragile than his impressive physique suggested. He pressed both hands to his head, fingers digging into his scalp with enough force to leave marks. The headaches, he muttered, barely audible. They never stop. Ever since last season. Ever since that hit against Denver Prep. But Dad said Sterling men don't complain. Don't show weakness. Don't. Harper's training included recognizing concussion symptoms, and alarm bells started ringing in her mind. The aggression, the poor judgment, the way he was pressing his temples, all potential signs of untreated traumatic brain injury. Braxton, look at me, she commanded, her voice shifting from adversary to caregiver. How long have you been having headaches? Have you seen a doctor? Coach Patterson said I was fine, Braxton replied, his words slightly slurred. Said I just needed to toughen up. Play through it. Dad agreed. Said real athletes don't let pain stop them. The door burst open before Harper could respond. Officer Sarah Castellano entered with her hand on her service weapon, taking in the scene with professional efficiency. Her eyes widened with recognition when they landed on Harper. Silent Storm Harper Sinclair. Officer Castellano's voice carried a mix of disbelief and something approaching awe. My dad watched every one of your fights. He's going to flip when he hears about this. Harper quickly shifted her attention back to Braxton, whose condition was deteriorating rapidly. Officer Castellano, we need paramedics immediately. I believe he has an untreated traumatic brain injury that's been aggravated by this morning's fall. The officer's training kicked in, her starstruck moment forgotten. She spoke rapidly into her radio while Harper knelt beside Braxton, stabilizing his neck with practiced hands. Years of cornering fighters had taught her basic emergency medical procedures, skills she'd hoped never to need outside the cage. Stay still, Harper instructed as Braxton tried to turn his head. Tyler, Jake, tell me exactly when he sustained the original injury. Tyler's voice shook as he answered. Denver Prep game, second quarter, October 15th last year. Helmet-to-helmet collision. He was out cold for maybe 30 seconds. And nobody took him to the hospital. Harper's professional calm barely masked her horror. Jake shifted uncomfortably. Coach Patterson said it would hurt his Yale recruitment if scouts found out. Braxton's dad agreed. They gave him some pills and told him to walk it off. The pieces of a horrifying puzzle clicked into place. An 18-year-old boy suffering from an untreated brain injury for nearly a year. The symptoms masked by privilege and pressure, manifesting as increased aggression and poor judgment. It didn't excuse his behavior, but it explained the escalation pattern Mackenzie Ross had documented. Principal Marcus Whitmore burst through the door, his usually perfect suit disheveled from running. His eyes darted between Harper standing calmly, the three boys in various states of distress, and Officer Castellano taking statements. "What is the meaning of this?" Whitmore demanded, though his voice lacked its usual authority. "Mrs. Sinclair, these are our top students. Their families are about to learn their sons assaulted a teacher." Officer Castellano interrupted, steel in her voice. "And from what I'm hearing, there's been a systematic cover-up of a serious medical condition that endangered not just Mr. Sterling, but everyone around him." The paramedics arrived in a rush of equipment and efficiency. Dr. Elena Ashford, head of emergency services at Pemberton Medical Center, took one look at Braxton's dilated pupils and immediately ordered a portable scanner. "How long has he been symptomatic?" she asked Harper while her team worked. "According to his friends, since October of last year, untreated concussion from a football game." Dr. Ashford's expression darkened. "And he's been playing contact sports this entire time." She turned to Coach Patterson, who had somehow materialized in the doorway. "You allowed a student with clear concussion symptoms to continue playing." The coach's face went pale. "The boy said he was fine. His father insisted." "His father isn't a medical professional," Dr. Ashford snapped, "but you're mandated by state law to ensure student-athlete safety. This is criminal negligence." The portable scanner beeped, displaying results that made the medical team exchange worried glances. Dr. Ashford's voice was carefully controlled. "Grade 3 concussion, with evidence of repeated trauma. If Miss Sinclair hadn't recognized the symptoms and ensured proper neck stabilization, that fall could have caused permanent paralysis, or worse." Richard Sterling arrived as they were loading his son onto a gurney. The CEO of Sterling Industries cut an imposing figure in his $1,000 suit, but his composure cracked when he saw Braxton's condition. "What happened to my son?" he rounded on Principal Whitmore. "I pay millions to this school. Your millions apparently bought a culture where winning matters more than student safety." Harper interrupted, stepping forward. "Your son has been suffering from an untreated brain injury for a year. The aggression, the bullying behavior, all classic symptoms that were ignored to protect his football career." Sterling's lawyer instincts kicked in. "That's a serious accusation, Miss Sinclair, and it's not an accusation, it's a medical fact." She gestured to Dr. Ashford. "Ask the doctor yourself. Or better yet, ask why Coach Patterson helped your son remove security cameras before assaulting teachers. Ask why 3 educators have left Westfield this year after being targeted by Braxton and his friends." Tyler stepped forward, surprising everyone. "She's telling the truth. Mr. Sterling, we've been terrorizing people all year. Braxton got worse after the injury, but nobody wanted to bench your son. Nobody wanted to disappoint you." The room fell silent except for the beeping of medical equipment. Richard Sterling looked between his semi-conscious son and the collection of complicit adults who'd enabled this situation, for perhaps the first time in his professional life. The powerful CEO seemed at a loss for words. "I recorded everything," Jake said quietly, holding up his phone. "Not just today. We've been documenting our pranks for months. Braxton always said we were untouchable because of who our families are." Officer Castellano took the phone, scrolling through video after video. Her expression grew increasingly grim. "This is evidence of assault, harassment, conspiracy, and every adult who knew and did nothing is potentially liable." Mackenzie Ross appeared in the doorway, clutching a flash drive. The quiet junior who'd warned Harper now stood with steel in her spine. "I have 47 additional videos. Every incident, every threat, every teacher who tried to help and got pushed out. I've been documenting everything." Principal Whitmore sank into a chair, his career collapsing in real time. Coach Patterson tried to edge toward the door, but found his path blocked by another officer who'd arrived as backup. As the paramedics wheeled Braxton out, he managed to focus on Harper. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "The pain, it never stopped, made everything angry, made me focus on getting better," Harper said gently. "The rest can be dealt with later." The aftermath unfolded with swift precision. By noon, Whitmore and Patterson were in custody. By evening, Sterling Industries had announced a complete restructuring of their relationship with Westfield Prep. Within a week, every athlete in the school had undergone comprehensive medical screening, revealing 2 more untreated concussions and a culture of hiding injuries that stretched back years. Harper found herself at the center of a transformation she'd never intended to spark. The girl who'd fought in cages to pay for college had become the woman who fought systemic corruption with truth and evidence. 6 months later, Westfield Prep's graduation ceremony looked different than previous years. Harper stood at the podium, addressing a crowd that included recovering students, reformed bullies, and families who'd learned hard lessons about the cost of privilege without accountability. "Strength," she began, looking at Braxton Sterling in the front row, his recovery miraculous but hard-won, "isn't about domination. It's about knowing when to fight and when to heal. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves and having the courage to change systems that enable harm." She found Mackenzie Ross in the crowd, now heading to Columbia on a journalism scholarship earned by breaking Westfield's biggest story. Tyler Morrison sat with his family, his father having used his prosecutor's position to ensure real reform instead of covering up the scandal. Jake Pemberton had started a nonprofit focused on athlete mental health, his family's medical connections finally serving a worthy purpose. "Sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought with fists," Harper concluded, touching the championship ring she now wore openly. "They're fought with truth, persistence, and the belief that people can change if given the chance." As applause filled the auditorium, Harper thought about the journey from cage fighter to teacher, from hidden strength to open advocacy. She'd come to Westfield Prep hoping to inspire through literature. Instead, she'd taught a more fundamental lesson that real power comes not from money or muscle, but from the courage to stand up, speak truth, and protect those who need protecting. The girl they'd called Silent Storm had found her voice, and in doing so, had helped an entire community find theirs.